Hi everyone. Did you miss this pretty face? What's that? Oh, come on, that's mean. There was one movie I watched a few days ago I just had to review. It's one of my new all-time favorites, and that movie is Traffic. For the bulk of this video, I'll do my best not to spoil it so you can go watch it for yourself to see why I like it so much. Anyway, you probably didn't know this, but I made 2 movie reviews on this channel once. I didn't get the results I wanted, so I deleted them. I'm going to try again, but in a different way. I'm going to talk about some of the plot, the movie's history, and especially the technical side, which adds to the experience and I hope might change the way you look at movies. Directed by Steven Soderbergh, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the guy who brought us the Ocean's trilogy and Aaron Brockovich, Traffic was released in 2000 to be met with both critical and financial success. It won Oscars for Best Director, Best Supporting Actor for Benicio del Toro, Best Film Editing, and Best Adapted Screenplay, all of which I think were well deserved. The only Oscar it didn't win, and I think it should have won, was Best Picture, but unfortunately, it went to Gladiator. Supposedly, before starring in this movie, Del Toro didn't speak a lick of Spanish, but he had to learn. And he did such a good job with the Spanish, I would have thought it was his first language under different circumstances. He wasn't the only actor who went above and beyond with the acting. Michael Douglas, Don Cheadle, and Catherine Zeta-Jones also did outstanding jobs.
Let me talk to her. Look, I know she's in there, man. I know she's in there.
Jesus, what? I haven't touched her.
You get the out of here right now.
Hi, Daddy.
Hey, sweetheart.
There are only 6 crime dramas I like as much as this one. The first 2 Godfather movies, Goodfellas, Catch Me If You Can, The Town, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. One thing these movies have in common is that they make me want to watch them again. I also probably will not get enough of Traffic soon. Another thing these movies and Traffic have in common, with the exception of The Godfather 2, is that they made me feel good in the end and didn't make me feel traumatized and shaken like most crime dramas seem to do, considering how desensitized I am to movie violence. It's kind of like Sicario, but in a lot of ways better. I think Sicario was meant to be the follow-up to this flick that critics and audiences wanted for a long time. As much of a nationalist as I am towards Mexico, I didn't feel like Mexico's image was very tainted, apart from one detail I'll get to in a bit. This was a lot tamer than Sicario and gave me a much better feeling. Watching Sicario before going to Mexico is like watching Jaws before going to the beach, but this movie doesn't make me feel any less comfortable about any upcoming trips to Mexico. I liked the use of color filters, although they were as subtle as a brick to the face. As much as I really like this movie, I do have 2 problems with it. The first one is that there was shaking of the handheld camera, but to be fair, there were some scenes shot in a car where a tripod probably wouldn't have fit. But I kind of felt like I was watching a movie with a budget higher than what it showed. My biggest problem is how they made Mexico yellow and overly bright at times. This is a Hollywood trope I've considered satirizing. Remember how in The Princess Bride, after Fezzik says, "Inigo, I hope we win," and we hear a line of dialogue from the next scene as a way of tying the scenes together? We get a lot of that in this movie. I also notice how the speech scenes with Michael Douglas and the daughter are filmed in a similar manner. Okay, here are some spoilers. If you don't want to hear me say them, go click on another video right now. Okay? You ready? I like how the movie made it so no main character was completely innocent. At first, Elena Ayala, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, just cannot believe that her husband was a drug dealer. Don Cheadle and his partner are DEA agents spying on her to see if she's in on some conspiracy to make matters better for her husband. And at first, she isn't. After her son is threatened by a man saying her husband owes $3 million, and she has no way of getting that kind of money, desperate times call for desperate measures. After that, whatever innocence she had was gone. She makes a proposal to one of the Obregon drug lords in Mexico to take care of this debt. She also wants this drug dealer, played by Shan Yu from Mulan, assassinated because he will testify against her husband, and that will condemn him. And she can't have that. I also liked how some filmmaking element had to be missing for dramatic effect. In the scene where Michael Douglas finds the drugs his daughter hid in the bathroom, there's no music there, and it feels like a time in my early teenage years when both my parents and I knew that I was caught. In the car bomb scene, there's no audible dialogue, just the music. In the poisoning scene, there's also no music. The movie did a good job at making me care about the main characters, regardless of how guilty they may have been, and regardless of whether they may have been pawns for the drug cartels in the movie. At first I disliked Michael Douglas's drug addict daughter. It was frustrating when she didn't want to admit she had a problem at the rehab. But as the movie progressed, I actually started to care as to what happened to her. I started to feel Douglas's character's fatherly concern and love. This is one of those movies where there are multiple stories going on and they are interwoven. This is my favorite one of those movies. They did an incredible job at tying the plots together. The only times any of the characters cross paths is when Michael Douglas is talking to the General Salazar with Javier in the room, and when Javier walks past Elena on the sidewalk. The ending, I'm not sure how to describe it, but just to say that it made me feel good would be an understatement. It was almost like I got some sort of drug high. I don't know, but I felt happy at the end. It was solid, and all the loose ends were tied up perfectly. And there's a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it's left to the audience's imagination as to what could happen next. I thought Javier was either going to die in the end or become completely evil, because I've seen that in way too many unpredictable crime dramas to the point of it becoming predictable. But no, he lives happily ever after. Kinda. He wasn't innocent and he was being used as a pawn for the Juarez cartel, but he eventually did the right thing and got them busted. All the main characters that get the most camera time get happy endings, in one way, at least. I totally understand why Traffic got the praise it got, and I think it was more worthy of the Best Picture Oscar than Gladiator. Traffic also has some thought-provoking insights on the drug cartels in Mexico, and this movie was made 6 years before when the big drug war kicked off. It's really worth a look. It'll kind of make you think about the whole drug conflict and if it's really beatable and stuff like that. If you haven't already seen Traffic, go watch it now. It is amazing.